Americans, we really don't care how you do it, and we don't care who's leading your particular cell. That becomes extremely effective. You're faced with whack-a-mole if you're an organized military. What are you going to do? Oh, you're going to try to get more expert at using propaganda and information warfare in order to counter the messaging that's coming from your opponent. That's 5th gen. Okay, that is PsyWar. That is a technology suite that was built for offshore combat by our military and the UK in particular, working closely with their intelligence communities, to give us new capabilities to counter these insurgency movements. And what's happened is, as often happens with governments and technology in general, once the tech exists, it gets deployed for other purposes that happen to be politically convenient at that time. And I've spoken to many people that have been part of these PsyWar units in Europe and in the United States. And a lot of these retired colonels are pretty pissed off because the tech and capabilities that they helped develop for offshore combat, they know are now being deployed against civilian populations. Not just civilian populations, they're being deployed against the populations of their own citizenry. Yes, sir?
What are the, give some examples of what these technologies look like?
Yeah, they're being deployed against the populations of their own citizenry. Yes, sir?
What are the, give some examples of what these technologies look like?
Yeah, there's so in the book we go into it at length. Listing them out, will kill the rest of the half an hour that I've got left. The weaponization of propaganda, the use of, for instance, just to give you one specific example, there's a military battle unit in the UK called the 77th Brigade. And the 77th Brigade also has an informal component that's referred to in social media as the Mutton Crew. There's a military battle unit in the UK called the 77th Brigade. And the 77th Brigade also has an informal component that's referred to in social media as the Mutton Crew. Okay? And there's something analogous that the CDC is funded through the public good projects and the Shots Heard Around the World program. Basically, these groups engage in cyberstalking against individuals, is one example. So if you're identified, I'll give you a very discrete example. Are you a software person at all? Okay, there's a program that's used in software development and deployment that generates a tracking feature called a Jura ticket. Development and deployment that generates a tracking feature called a Jura ticket. It's one of their outputs. It's when you call in and you complain about some software bug that you've encountered, and they say, oh, we've created a ticket for that. Okay, and we'll get back to you after we solve this ticket. And they become very obsessed about fixing it. That's a Jura ticket. Okay? It was recently revealed in congressional testimony and reports that I have Jura tickets that have been developed by the US government that identify me as having certain characteristics. I'm an anti-vaxxer and I'm a conservative. Those were sufficient to merit the deployment of weaponized propaganda against me in social media that have been developed by the US government that identify me as having certain characteristics. I'm an anti-vaxxer, and I'm a conservative. Those were sufficient to merit the deployment of weaponized propaganda against me in social media, targeting through these various groups like the crowd stalking activities, in which the CDC and in the UK, the 77th Brigade, for instance, targeted Andrew Bridgen. They target me every time I go over there. And you'll see just a slew of concerted trollery attacks and other misinformation and disinformation being promoted against those who have said things which are contrary to the accepted narrative.